Fashion, drip, it's the most important end game of any game nowadays. And it's no difference here in Space Marine 2. For those of us coming from the hobby, you know that there are plenty of different ways to paint all of your Space Marines. And there's plenty of different successor chapters and legions and all sorts of things to approach it in all sorts of ways. In this video today, I want to show off some of the chapters I've recreated or some of the community ones that have been set on my Discord. I'm going to do this by simply showing you a quick 360 of each one of the armor sets, and they can be replicated on any one of the classes. I'm going to show you specific classes just because I needed enough slots to make them, but they're not by any means bound to those classes. And you can simply jump ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters, no pun intended, below and in the description. So you can simply jump ahead to whichever one of them interests you name-wise or whatever, and to see how I've replicated it. I'll then show you what colors I've used, which ones you can maybe flex around to say, hey, if you want a different color to look like this or like that, here's what I did. And I kind of explain a little bit how I approach every single one of these, either homebrew or official chapters from Space Marine. So enjoy this preview or this showcase of tons of different heraldry of chapters for Space Marine 2. Before we even get started, some stuff I want to quickly go through is that there are different color palettes for every single one of these slots: primary, secondary, and tertiary. So the availability to colors in those slots will be different. Just know that going into it. Just try to match colors as best you can with my video or any other thing that you see online when it comes to this. Also, specifically with the pauldrons, the tertiary color is going to be the pauldron trim. Even though it is a matte color, like for example, Wild Rider Red, it will always display as somewhat of a metallic or at least reflective color. Now, the palette for, say, gold is even more, bronze is even more reflective or metallic, but it's just worth noting that for some reason, the linings or the trim is never a matte color. So if I wanted to take if I wanted to take Wraithbone, it always has some sort of reflective quality, thus changing the way that color actually interacts. And you can see here too, just to reiterate my point here earlier, Cantor blue, Macragge blue, Night Lord's blue, Aliotic, all those are available to you in the primary section. But in tertiary, we have got Cantor blue here, which I think I actually have selected. We have Macragge blue, and that's it. We don't have the other ones. We don't have Lothern blue on here. We don't have we have Lothern blue. So it will change the qualities of it. You can see Lothern blue is not as matte as it would be in another armor panel. So this is going to make a little bit of a frustrating process to recreate a lot of your favorite chapters, but just make do with what you've got until we get more colors, or maybe the option to change something from matte to metallic. And it is worth noting too that, is this here? No, Corpus Black. If you do get access to Null and Oil, it is one of the only completely matte paints. So the Seraphim Sepia is also one as far as this is concerned. I think it's somewhere in the secondary. But a lot of these will not reflect the way that they actually are in tabletop. The color palette will be different. The actual colors, matte versus metallic, will be different. So just wanted to have all these things known to you up front. And the last thing too to know is if you have or see any of these armor sets that I've got with a specific knee pad colored in and you want to replicate that, just set an emblem, whatever emblem you want. I always use the Black Templar emblem, and then I set that field and the color to the same one. And this will react differently on some armors depending on what your actual color is behind it. Like white or black will respond very differently depending upon what color is put here. So just know these things going into it. Let's show off some cool color schemes. Starting us off, we have the Emperor's Spears. One of my favorite schemes here for my tactical. It just seems to work too with the actual helmet of the tactical. This is pretty much like a carbon ripoff directly from the cover of the book, and Dembski Bowed and Be Praised, but with a little different embellishments here and there with some gold and other colors, but just try to recreate that overall. We don't have a wolf pelt that we would use otherwise to get that full look of it, but you can see a lot of what we use is just simply white scar, tons of Lothern blue, and some places we use Cantor blue to try to pull a good color out of it. Specifically on the shoulder pads. Like if I were going to use, we don't even have Lothern blue. It doesn't really kind of capture that essence like I wanted it to, so I went with Cantor Blue just to give us a little bit of a visual contrast here. If you're familiar with tabletop painting, trying to create that kind of visual contrast to make a difference from piece to piece really helps out in trying to make your own scheme or replicate some of the other ones that don't have some of the obvious stuff. Like if I had gone with a Northern Blue here, it just kind of makes that blend too much into the shoulder pad, and Cantor Blue, which is a much darker blue, just simply feels like a Lothern Blue with a shade on top of it. So you can see it adds just a good amount of visual diversity here to really get you a good Emperor's Spears. Or Spears of the Emperor, Emperor's Spears. For all my Blood Angel fans, you have the Knights of Blood. Now, I went with a pretty simple color scheme here, just with the Ironbreaker for this one versus what would have been, in my opinion, Grey Knight Steel. If you're, again, familiar with the tabletop, I'll try not to use as many of the tabletop terms, but it's for those that are pretty familiar with it. You know this color scheme is a little bit more blue. And the actual symbol that they've got is a shield with a red teardrop and the two black swords. So I just went with the white shield here instead, just to kind of overall match that feel. Now, when it comes to the color scheme, like I said, I'm sorry, I said Iron Warriors. I meant Lead Belcher is what we use for the armor. Again, in tabletop, Lead Belcher is like way darker. Now, you can go instead of Lead Belcher if you wish. Another good option here is Iron Warriors. It just is a little bit darker of a color, but I wanted that real sharp contrast between the red and the silver to be very apparent. And with all of the color schemes here too, it's pretty much just white. And I used the actual red versus the Mephiston red. I wanted a much punchier red here, but I also though use Mephiston red to create that visual diversity here so that it's not just simply going to wash out when we go ahead and use the same color in a certain thing. Like, where is it? There it is. Like I wanted a little bit of visual diversity there, like a little bit more of a crispness. And it's kind of hard to even tell on that portion, but mainly right here, I wanted something to have a little bit more of a pop. And you can do the same thing, right? Just change off any kind of the reds you want to have a visual diversity however you wish. And for any other accents, I pretty much just stuck with the normal silver, which as you can see is a bit darker of a silver to give us a bit of a visual diversity yet again in between the Lead Belcher and the non-Lead Belcher. You can see down here. And then with this is supposed to be like a full red and a full yellow, but I wanted just to break up that silver just a little bit here. And it happens to work really well with Tactical, but I've got this on a lot of other classes, and I really do like the look of it, especially since Tactical has war gear that is red. It really kind of plays into it very well. This is a bit of a homebrew. This is one of the White Dwarf ones that I have actually never seen on the official Warhammer chapter list, but these are the Sons of Aries. I think it was supposed to be a Templars, Iron Fists. Nope, not them either. The Imperial Fist successor chapter here. So that's where we've got that same symbol. And we just try to pull a lot of Night Lord's blue with a lot of white accents, throwing in black here and there to kind of really create a good visual contrast. And taking a look at that, it is just pretty much just straight up Night Lord's blue and Korax white or white scar, depending upon whether it is in the main color, the secondary or tertiary. And really just throwing Abaddon black here onto this to kind of create that look. You can go with on the shoulder pad. I use this a lot. I use Iron Hand Steel a lot because Iron Hand Steel in this game is far darker. It's almost like a true black by comparison. You can see to Abaddon Steel. Or I'm sorry, Abaddon Black. So if there's Abaddon Black, there's Iron Hand Steel. So it gives us a bit truer and darker of a black, or Nuln Oil, which removes that gloss that we get from Abaddon Black, and it makes it a more of a matte, flat color. And I've started to play more with Nuln Oil. You'll see one of the other tactical schemes coming up, and it makes for a really good punchy black on top of a nice white trim like this. In fact, I'm even going to swap it right now as I talk about it, because I've done it with another one of the schemes we're going to take a look at in just a second. Where is it? Yeah. So you can again just see this really makes for an overall cleaner look. With especially an emblem on there. And as you kind of move up through the ranks, the emblems tend to fall off your armor pieces, but still, I think this really stands out as a very cool one, especially for tactical. Another simple one, but still using that Nuln Oil, we have the White Panthers. So a lot of white, a lot of black, and a lot of red. And I went with I think I went Wild Rider red on this to really give us a sharp contrast from those matte black look on the shoulder pads and help stand out in the fields of white, especially the Aquila on our chest piece and the kind of gorget around the base of the helmet. So taking a look at this, again, just a lot of white here and a lot of black. The helmet here that I've got on this character, the White Panthers have a white face. So what I actually would do for this color scheme, depending if it's on a Reaver, I actually originally did this on a Reaver, I'd probably go with this helmet to get that white face on the black helmet. It just has a really cool, sharp, clean look. When you kind of see it all put together, it looks really, really nice. Unfortunately, it's very much an Ultramarines helmet, but it's neither here nor there. Going through the rest of this, though, it is Mephiston red. Sorry, I thought it was Wild Rider red to pull out some more color. And it's interesting because you use Wild Rider red to highlight Mephiston red on tabletop, but I really wouldn't do it this way around in this game. But again, just very simple. This symbol, too, is pretty much spot on what their symbol is, so you can just go ahead and use the Iron Hounds icon. Even though it's supposed to be more of a panther, it is close enough to kind of fit the bill. And that's kind of what you have to do for most of the emblems. Just kind of do whatever you can. And we're using the new Greaves pattern that allows us to do the two-tone. I went with, like I said, Nuln Oil because I like the flat look of this. I think it really creates a real clean contrast. I didn't like the Abaddon Black as much. You can see just the difference in the two Greaves right from there to there. And another good option, like I said, also would be Iron Hand Steel, which does give us almost like a truer black when we're taking a look at the two colors side by side. So you do have some options there, and however you want to bring these guys to life. Now, for a Traitor Legion, well, pre-Horus Heresy Traitor Legion, we just simply have the Emperor's Children. It's just Phoenician purple, and it's just gold. You can probably go with Balthazar gold, which has more red in it. Those that are Blood Angels players, you know that on tabletop, it used to be recommended that you use Balthazar gold because it has more red, so it visually pulls more red out of your eye when you look at the kind of quote-unquote violet of Phoenician purple. But this is a real simple scheme. I was experimenting with some different things, but that's all it is Phoenician purple and straight up gold. That's it. Just to kind of show you the difference here. Let's delete this rule. Just to show you what Balthazar gold looks like. You can see it just brings a little bit different of a color into there. A little bit cleaner. I'm really big on using Golden Griffin for a lot of things, which we'll see in our next scheme as more of a yellow, because it's almost like a non-metallic metal for this game, but it really give you like a sharp visual contrast if you want more of a stark yellow gold, more of a white yellow gold versus, again, that's bronze, gold here or Balthazar gold. You can just kind of see those differences. Next up is the Necropolis Hawks. So I went in a different direction with this. I think this is supposed to technically be Sotek green, but I went with, I think it's Aliotic blue, just to give a real cool difference. The Sotek green in this game kind of gets a little washed out, so I like the portrayal of this for the Necropolis Hawks, and everyone who's seen this on stream has immediately pointed out it's Necropolis Hawks, so I feel like it's not too far of a deviation. But our scheme is very simple here with White Scar. Now, like I said earlier, I went with Golden Griffin because it's supposed to be yellow that we're using for this, and we don't really get a good yellow, especially when it comes to a lot of these pieces. I think we only have a yellow in the primary right now until we get any kind of Imperial Fist action added into the game. Yeah, and gold here, and the gold it's just too much, right? It's got too much red, too much orange. The Balthazar has too much red in it, so I needed a real nice, clean yellowish, and that's what I got from Golden Griffin. Fulgurite Copper, again, just too much orange in there, so you can see a real nice look on that. For our blue, like I said, we went with Cantor blue. Sorry, not Aliotic. Just to show you, if I had gone with Sotek green, it really didn't work the way that I had wanted it to, based off of the actual color palette of what they're supposed to look like in tabletop. But another option here would be Aliotic if you want just a little bit brighter of a blue. Just to kind of show you that difference here, I'll put it on real fast so you can see that. Oh. There's the difference. This might be closer to the actual art, but just a lot of Golden Griffin, a lot of white on the arms and the helmet, and then the backpack as well. And then we have Aliotic or Cantor blue in the rest of the armor pieces. For another Blood Angel successor chapter, we have the Sanguine Night Terrors. Now, this is from a gentleman on Instagram who paints his entire army like this with red fields on the shoulder pads and red what else? Not elbows, red knee pads, as well as red helmets or white helmets, depending on what they are. And it's a really cool color scheme. I'm going to link you to his Instagram in the comments. I'm sorry, in the description and the pinned comment below. Please go check him out. He's got a lot of really beautiful looking models. But this really works well for the assault, in my opinion, especially after you get to the final level where you have the two-tone mask, and everything is pretty much just gold, red, and white. They're all simple colors. You could start this one from the very beginning of the game, which I think is really cool too. Again, this is just simply Balthazar Gold. I progressed it from normal gold because I wanted to kind of pull more of that red gold in, as I've said plenty of times. And then you can see here, this is just Mephiston red. For our knee pads, we did like I always recommend, Black Templar icon with red and red to get this. I chose red over Mephiston red because when you're dealing with a black armor or a white armor, it can really get tricky with this color. So here's Mephiston red. You can see that that's a much darker red, and it really doesn't pop as well. Just to kind of give you a difference there. This is the red. This is Mephiston. Mephiston, it's really almost want to go with like a Wild Rider to give you just a much better look. It's much cleaner looking too. What I've noticed too is just the opacity kind of gets lower depending on the specific color in the background. It's really, really, really weird. But try to go with a nice bright color to pull out as much as you can. And if you're doing this on any other armor color palette, just play with other colors that are similar enough to see if you can try to pinpoint what you want. This is the Sanguine Night Terrors, a Blood Angel successor chapter. We've already gone over these guys, but these are the Knights of Blood with the Assault, just to show you what it might look like on a different character and how well this color scheme plays with a lot of different armors in this game. I think it really stands out very well, even though we don't get access to all the colors that it probably really is in tabletop. Now we have the Mentors. Now, this scheme probably doesn't work as well on the Reaver, but we have Caliban green on the chest piece, the rim, and the helmet, and as well as the backpack. And it looks not as great in this screen. When you see it out in the actual field away from the screen, it looks better. And that's something to know, that some of these schemes don't look as great in this screen. When you actually play them, they look even better. So again, it's just Caliban green with Mephiston red on the chest piece. If I were to have this armor set unlocked, I think this would look a little bit better because we'd have the full-on Aquila to just give us a lot more color splash on the chest. Right now it's kind of dense. It's just kind of dead. So that is an unfortunate part of this scheme on Reaver. But I moved this scheme off of another class because I wanted to showcase it differently, or another class differently. So I had to do that here, unfortunately. But the Mentors have such a cool color scheme that I also wanted to show it. Fortunately, I just used the Blood Raven icon here because we don't have a cool like bird head. In lieu of, like, this would have been kind of close, but again, it's not a bird. So we went with the Blood Raven scheme. And that's another thing too to know is, your shoulder pads are always just going to be different depending on how you're setting them up. I actually don't usually use emblems on the characters because you have so many cool ornate shoulder pads, but this is how you can bring the Mentors to life. Now, my go-to for my Vanguard is the Mortifactors, one of my favorite schemes here. Now, in tabletop, the hands, the shoulder pads, and the boots are all black. Now, unfortunately, we can't do that here. So we get a pretty similar color scheme. And I think it really pops, especially since we're using the Reaver helmet. And I'm using the Reaver helmet with green eyes, just kind of add a little bit more accent here. Of course, it's like the only time I'd ever use the Reaver because they're terrible on tabletop. So we're using just Abaddon Black for everything. I think it just works really well too, since Abaddon Black really feels like a very dark gray. And I think it works really well with Ushabti Bone, which is our tan color that we've gone with everything else. Outside of that, we just have silver for the accents on the chest. And we use Warpstone Glow for certain accents here too, like on the shoulder pads, because we can't do Ushabti Bone to make it really look like it works. Like Ushabti Bone here just looks nothing like I want it to, so we've gone with Warpstone Glow. Yeah, I know it's green, but it's a better look, I feel, overall than what looks almost like a glowing gold. So I would like for this to simply be a matte color for Ushabti Bone, but it's kind of the only thing I could do to kind of pull a similar color palette into it. It's really kind of annoying, personally. It bothers the hell out of me. And we have to use, of course, the 2 pattern greaves for the legs to get that overall look and make those that color palette really pop. Just to show the Sons of Aries again in another style. You have it over here with the Vanguard. Looks really good with the Reaver helmet again. The knee pad, you can see I tried to go with a black on the Night Lord's blue, and it does really cause some issues. So that's just an example of, depending upon the underlying color, it can really cause some problems when trying to make one of those solid color knee pads. But just wanted to show off another version of this on a different set of armor. Bit of a left turn here. We have the Angel's Retribution on a bulwark. Basically just Lothern blue, orange, and black. It's the only orange I've got on any of my Marines, and I really wanted to try to get some orange on there to see what it would really look like. There are definitely other palettes that have really cool orange characters. Other chapters have really cool orange heraldry. But this is one that we went with here. Just simple orange. I think it works the best. I think that Averland Sunset didn't have the orange I really wanted. And we don't have like a cool one like Wazdaka Red. I think it was like a pretty orange one. Or Fire Dragon Bright is like a very reddish orange, which I think is a little bit more in line with the Angels of Retribution. The shoulder pad 2 I just put on the Dark Angels emblem because it's the closest thing. It's supposed to be a sword on fire with a single wing, but it'll do. And with the bulwark, the shoulder pads are very annoying. So we went with Lothern blue to get that overall blue trim, but you'll see we're going to play with that a lot. And for our trim everywhere else, we just went with silver because although it's not black, it does give us that really good complementary color to the Lothern blue palette that in certain light will change, of course, right? We can take a look over here at the greave, and the same thing over here with our shield. For some more Blood Angels love, we have the Carmine Blades, the successor chapter that I actually paint my Blood Angels in, which is white helmets, white trim, white Aquila with red everywhere else. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I usually use a Power Fist, so you can see one of my arms is completely white. If I had a Power Fist active, it would be a big hulking Power Fist, which looks really cool. Depending on which edition you're looking at for the Carmine Blades, 7th edition Carmine Blades actually had more of an Ushabti Bone look, but in 8th and forward, they made it very clear cut that it is a white color versus a Ushabti Bone or Bone look for these color palettes. But it's very, very straightforward. It's just simply Feast on red and Korax white or White Scar, depending on. And our gold is just typical gold because it has a lot more yellow in it. I think down for the greaves, we went with Balthazar. Let's take a look. Yeah, Balthazar gold, just to kind of blend in better with the red over here. On the white field, I feel like the normal gold fits a little bit better in this situation. And with the shield, we went with white with gold too, just to give us a lot more visual contrast. I didn't want to just go with another red object to kind of blend in against the armor when I'm holding it up. So it looks really good, especially with the red eye lenses and everything for the Carmine Blades for your Blood Angel successors. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you've definitely seen this guy. It's my bulwark that is a black Templar in the pattern of a Sword Brethren. So rather than having a white field with black trim on the shoulder pads, we have a black field with red trim, and it usually inverts the color for the emblem as well, showing a red emblem rather than the black emblem on a white field, of course, right? And we replicate that onto the knee pads to show a red field with a black emblem, just again to show some really cool visual diversity. Now, I originally had changed this guy to Null and Oil, but I like Abaddon Black now that the patch 3.0 kind of changed the relationship between Null and Oil and what's this called? Null and Oil and Abaddon Black. I think I actually still have it on one of the greaves to show the difference. Nope, both Abaddon Black. And again, too, we went with Abaddon Black for the field to blend it into the rest of the armor with a Wild Rider Red. Just to show off once more, you can see that Mephiston Red really gets lost here, so I really wanted that big poppy color to jump out, so we went with Wild Rider. And most of the gold is Balthazar gold because it's usually attached to some sort of red somewhere. I wanted to kind of blend in things together. And for our shield, it's just a simple black and red too to match everything else. It's a very simple color scheme. I would have the Black Templar helmet on. I apologize. It just didn't swap up the color set or armor set. But this is your sword brethren for the Black Templars. A shout out here to Raziel, one of the people on our Discord, who recreated the Storm Wardens here on the Bulwark, and it looks real good. Real good. Nice, good pop on this, a good overall color scheme. This one's kind of tricky to play around with because you have to use a ton of different colors to really pull a lot of good visual clarity into this. So let's take a look here at how we get this going. Overall, we're playing pretty much with Aliotic blue. It's a little bit more of a bluer blue versus Cantor blue is a little bit darker, more of a navy blue. And we're using tons of silver, Stormhost silver, and anything else that we can get with, boom, Administratum Gray on the Pauldron. So you can go with Administratum Gray. I did that because I really like the look of it. But Lead Belcher is just fine because that's what the rest of the armor is. In fact, I think this one's Lead Belcher. Yeah, I was playing around with kind of how I like the look of it. But I like how like kind of a deeper visual contrast it gives me between the emblem, this laurel, and the shoulder or the trim. I just like the overall look. It kind of helped me. It helped also to separate the emblem out because the emblem color was really hard to grab. It's supposed to be a blue shield with a white lightning bolt. So I went with just a blue lightning bolt and it was kind of tricky to pull out a good color here. So we went with Lothern blue on that. You can see Night Lord's blue for some reason turns navy blue in this color palette. Macragge blue's over here. Sotek or Roomfang steel. Sorry, I thought that was Sotek green. It's just really hard to get a good looking blue for the emblem. So we went with Lothern on that one. And the trim on the shoulder pads is Macragge blue, which is wild, right? We couldn't have gone with Aliotic because we only have Cantor. And Cantor has a much different visual look on the trim. Same thing with Lothern blue. So it's really frustrating to kind of get all this right. So Lothern blue on the emblem, Macragge blue on the trim. The rest of the armor is Aliotic blue with Stormhost silver or Lead Belcher, depending on where we are and trying to do stuff with, or depending on all the way at the bottom, we have silver just to keep that good contrast. If I had gone with, and I replicated this 100% from what Raziel did, not to mention that they're doing a remaster of that coming out soon. If I had gone with like Stormhost silver, you can see it just blends way too well into that armor. This helps break up that those lines a little bit, right? Runefang Steel just puts a little too much blue and kind of really messes it up. And Macragge blue puts too much blue into it. So I really like how that silver looks, gives it a nice good breakup down over there in the legs portion. But the Storm Wardens look real good with this color scheme. Oh, also too, worth noting, the shield is Lothern blue with Stormhost silver rather than Aliotic blue, which just, again, blends really, it's way darker than the rest of your armor. So I think it just blends itself away. Jumping into our final class, we have heavy. I don't actually have any cool ones for sniper, but this is, you guessed it, the Crimson Fists. A very easy one to do. It's just Cantor blue and Balthazar gold. I like Balthazar gold, as I've said plenty of times before, because it has a lot of red in the gold, which goes well with the Crimson Fist. Hopefully, if we get an Imperial Fist campaign pack or chapter pack or whatever, we'll be able to get an actual cosmetic thing here for the fist. Right now it just does the whole arm, and we have Evil Sun Scarlet, which is actually what I would not have done originally. I would have gone with like more of a crimson color from Corn Red, but this gives us just a really good contrast and a good popping. Otherwise it just kind of gets a little too lost in how dark the blue is. I don't know why this thing has like, it's using Retributor Gold. So just to show you too, Retributor Gold is another one you can use, and it's like the only time I'd recommend, I'm sorry, Liberator Gold. Liberator Gold. It's like the only time I'd ever recommend it. But I think that Balthazar Gold does really well here. You can see just a normal gold. It just gets a little too dark for my tastes, and Golden Griffin is a little too bright for my taste. So I really like how Balthazar Gold sits into this. And also with the emblem, we do want to see how this is just the Imperial Fist icon, right? But we're going with red here for the actual fist, and we go with black for the actual background. I mean, you could even go with Cantor blue. Well, it's weird how Cantor blue does that, right? Just go black with the background. I thought Cantor blue would make it blend in so it just looks like red on the armor on the shoulder pad, but it just doesn't for some weird reason. This is your Imperial. I'm sorry. No. Your Crimson Fist for your heavy. All of my Dark Angel fans are going to like this one because it is the Disciples of Caliban. And with this, I went with Warpstone Glow versus Caliban Green. I don't know why I keep saying Caliban Green. It worked a little bit better for me. I feel like the actual look of black and Dark Angels Green or Caliban Green in this, just doesn't really work very well. You can see it as I go through the rest of it. Let's go ahead and look at the chest piece. So here's Warpstone Glow. It's a nice, big, good green, right? But if I look at Caliban Green, it really blends it in a little too much for me. And you can see too, if I look at the greaves to really show this off, if I were to go probably with like a flat Nuln Oil or even maybe with Iron Hand Steel, it might actually make that better contrast, but still it just blends itself away to the point where I can't really tell. Whereas the art for it shows a pretty big stark contrast between the black and the green. And were I doing this on tabletop, I would probably still go with black and the original Caliban Green, but I'd put more of a pronounced highlight to create that visual difference. Since we don't have that, we're pretty much just putting Abaddon Black and Warpstone Green or Caliban Green. This should be Warpstone. I played around with it earlier on stream and it kind of resulted in some funky stuff. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's the arms. It's supposed to be, the arms are segmented like the legs are. Since we can't do that, we went with black arms, and this is green rim with Warpstone Glow, Warpstone Glow, Warpstone Glow, and Warpstone Glow in the back as well. It just gives you a nice, good color palette difference, so you can see those greaves actually standing out or those arms actually standing out. And it looks really cool too with a lot of the more Baroque shoulder pads that the heavy gets access to, especially around like their Gorget here. It looks really, really good. Another community submission here. He calls these the Bustardes. Not to be confused with Bustardes, but it's pretty sick. There's no real anything going on here. It's just a lot of really cool black, a lot of really cool red, and some other cool little flares in this. We've separated the armor, right? The chest piece is red with red shoulder pad fields, a red helmet, and then black pretty much everything else. And nice too with the black Templar icons on the knee pads to create more of that visual diversity in the knees. You could just simply, if you wanted to remove that, you could just go with like this. It does become very similar to the Sanguine Night Terrors if you do that, that we have in the Assault that we looked at earlier. But it's a really cool standout punchy look. And I think too, when you take a look at a lot more of the crazier armor sets that you get, the crazier shoulder pads that you get as you progress through this, I think it really gets cool, especially with the last one, to have a real cool look right like that. Let me go into this one. Now you get it looks really, really good like that. This is what I saw, like, oh man, that's great. Let's go with that. So really big fan of this one as well. Closing us out, we have the Angels Erradicant. Very simple on this one too. White armor all the way through, for the exception of the shoulder pads and the backpack and the arm. Those are just full on black. And then the Aquila is a red. And I've gone with some more red on here just to kind of add a little bit more to it. But with the greaves, we went with Balthazar Gold to, you guessed it, pull some of that red into that gold color down there. We have gold down over there as well, gold over here, gold over here. Remember when I said Balthazar Gold? I lied. It's actually just normal gold. That's probably actually better too if let me see. Yeah, I kind of like that gold. I went with a red knee pad. This is another example. White really loses a lot of color depending on what you're doing. So you can see that that opacity gets all beat up. It's very opaque. You can go with as many different color reds as you want to try to get something to work there. Whatever kind of strikes your fancy and works for you. Because we do have red on that chest, right? As we go all the way up. But the color palette here is pretty much, like I said, just white scar and Corvus black, and make it work where you can. Abaddon black on that backpack. And then I went with Iron Hand Steel and black just to create a lot of really good true black on that field there. I wanted it to really stand out here. And with the arms, it's just a simple Abaddon black. But that is your Angels Erradicant. We don't have a cool emblem for them to really mimic, but go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are there other ones that you really recommend? Go ahead and say the chapter. You unfortunately can't link because YouTube will just take the link down, but just say the chapter name. Like, hey, this is the Angels Erradicant, type in Angels Erradicant 40K and you'll be able to find it. There's tons of ways to get access to lots of really different heraldry for the chapters. There's a huge picture of it. If you just type in Warhammer 40,000 chapter heraldry, you'll get a massive list of all of them, and just plug some of them in. Some of them look better than others. Some of them will have the same color description, like, oh, this is a blue, but this one's also a blue, and they're just entirely different blues. Just kind of make things work. Hopefully the whole list inspires you, and this video is just kind of meant to give you different ways to approach your current chapter heraldry and mix things up. Maybe you take a look at the Angels Erradicant and go, let me try this with actually black on the top of their thighs. That might look really good here versus the white on white. Whatever it is, go ahead and let it be known in the comment section below on ways you could do different approaches for every class and whatever combination it is. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.